Hello, everybody. This is Don Counts, and we are here with Coach Louis Thompson. I have also Dick Farah here, and we're going to talk a little bit about Coach Thompson's life. Louis, tell us a bit about yourself, where you were brought up, and about your career.
Well, I was born in Lebanon, Tennessee, April 9th, 1945. Lived out on a farm. We had about 120 acres, milk cows, cedar trees, and a lot of rocks. And went to elementary school at Major, which is no longer in existence. From there, I went to Lebanon High School. I graduated from Lebanon High School in 1963. I was fortunate enough to be able to play football. I didn't play in junior high. I was a ninth grader, walking down the hall one day, about the second day of school. A guy tapped me on the shoulder and asked me what my name was and where I lived, and it was a football coach. He said, "Have you ever played football?" I said, "No, sir, not backyard football." And he said, "Would you like to try it?" So I figured milking 15, 20 cows every day or practicing football for an hour, hour and a half, I kind of weighed those two options. And so I went home and talked to my dad, and so he said, "Yeah, you can give it a try." So next day I went to football practice, probably the worst day of my life. I had never played, never put on a football helmet, shoulder pads, or anything else. Of course, back then, this was 1958 or 59. There wasn't as many rules as there was today. So the first day I probably got hit 200 times in practice, had no clues what was going on. And so went home. Well, I still had to milk some dang cows when I got there. But the next day, I went back to football practice. And, it got better and better from there. And I was fortunate enough to continue on. And in 1963, I did get a scholarship at the University of Alabama. I had a chance to play with Coach Bryant for Alabama and for Coach Bryant. 64, 65, and 66.
So your football coach, your high school football coach, also played for Bear Bryant. Did that help you get on with Bear?
Well, in the end, it did. After I had been recruited my junior and senior year, I hate to say this, but I was a big Tennessee ball fan at that time. And Coach Treble did play for Coach Bryant at Kentucky. And he would counsel with me quite a bit, and he did influence me to go to Alabama. But he would tell me the pros and cons about Coach Bryant, and the program, the way it was going at UT and at Alabama at that time. So late in the season of '62, I decided to attend the University of Alabama.
Coach Bryant was a pretty big name even at that point. What was that like? Him coming into your home and your family and telling you that he wanted you to play for him?
Well, he never did visit in my home. Coach Hennessy, Dude Hennessy, was the coach that recruited me during that time. But I did go to Alabama on 3 recruiting trips. And, it was at that time, as you said, Coach Bryant was not as big a name then as he became later on when he, won 315. Was a winningest coach at that time, and won 6 national championships and all that. But he was still Coach Bryant, the Junction boys from Texas A&M. And I went to Alabama. That was his 5th year at Alabama. So we were still, I think he still remembered some of that Junction boy stuff in 1963 and 64 in Tuscaloosa.
Talk a little bit about how big you were and what positions you played, and then how big you were by the time you got out.
Well, actually, when I was in high school, I played 2 or 3 different positions. I was an offensive lineman, a defensive lineman, and my senior year, Coach Treble moved me to fullback. I weighed about 220, 225, and he needed a blocking fullback's what he needed, because he let me carry the ball about 10 times and made me block about 2,000 times. Anyway, so I had this big idea and went to Alabama. They recruited me. They never said anything about offense and defense. So first or second day we were there, we were dressed out. Coach Griska, who was from Huntsville, Alabama, was working with the freshman team. And so he was talking to us. He said, okay, so all your backs go up there with whoever the coach was. So I got up and started that way. And one of the coaches hollered at me and said, Thompson, get over here with these linemen. So I made it about 3 seconds as a running back at Alabama, but it ended up being a defensive tackle. I weighed about 215. Back in those days, Coach Bryant liked those lighter people, and he didn't go with the big guys till 70, 71, somewhere in there.
Let's talk a little bit about what Coach Bryant was like in practice and also in game situations.
Well, at the time, I didn't realize what he was trying to teach us, but I think every day about the life skills that he taught me, and I'm sure a lot of the players that played for him. Teamwork, how to be a class person, how to be a winner, how to act as a winner, and also how to act when you lose, because he said you are going to lose sometimes. He didn't like losing, and he had different methods about working with you when you did lose. But everybody listened to him. He was a very tough taskmaster. If you've ever read anything on Coach Bryant, he really worked on the small things. I know there's a lot of times that we'd run plays. We'd run the same play maybe 25 times, and he would coach each position, or the position coach would make sure that everybody understood what was going on. And I think he was one of those kind of people. They talk about Coach Saban and Coach Bryant, and they talk about the GOAT, the best of all time. I'll say this, Coach Bryant probably couldn't coach today because of the college atmosphere, because there wouldn't be any players left from what Coach Bryant did back in the day. And Coach Saban probably couldn't coach back in that day too. So they were two great coaches, but I'm so glad that I had the chance to play for them and learn things that I use every day. I get up every day. This is weird, but I think about Coach Bryant and things that he would say just about every day that I walk. And I tried to use that in my coaching career as I continued on.
Wow. Dick, you got anything?
Coach, you in your early years, you didn't have an automobile.
No.
And a lot of the kids in high school at that time did not, and even in college, you did not have an automobile. What was it like in those early years to get to practice, get back home, milk cows, and do all the things that you were expected to do at that time?
Yeah, and when I started, as I said, we had my mom and dad, we lived on a farm, and my mom worked in a garment plant, and my dad was an electrician and stuff, and we did have about 20 or 25, 30 cows that we had to milk every day. And so, and other chores, hay, hauling hay, tobacco, all that stuff. And I was pretty well doing most of it with him up to my 9th grade year. And I didn't have an automobile. I had to depend on, catching rides with other people. Living out in the country, it was tough. And my mom would wait after I got started until I turned 16 and was able to drive. My mom would wait every day after football practice and pick me up at the high school. And as I said, we lived 10, 12 miles out of town. So it was tough. I seriously doubt in 2025 if many kids would do that today. I would wonder if it would mean that much to them, to be able to get to practice and stuff. And I never did miss practice, did not miss a day of practice. It didn't matter, sick, hurt, anything else. The whole time I was in high school, I was there every day that the coach ever did. And I missed some time in college, banged up a little bit, but I was there at practice. So I can say that I never missed a football practice when I played.
Following your college days, you had a short stint with the New York Jets.
Giants.
Giants. Tell us about that.
Well, that's very short. In 67, I did get drafted by the Giants in the 67 draft. So I went to New York. I was there in '67 and went through training camp, went through the season. I played for the Westchester Bulls. I was on their taxi squad in '67. And so I came back, went back to school in Tuscaloosa in '68. I still needed about 15 hours to finish my degree. And I went back to the Giants in '68 training camp. I made it to the first cut, and I got cut. Atlanta picked me up off waivers. So I go from New York, I go to Atlanta. I'm down there with Norm Van Brocklin. And if you know who he is, he was about like Coach Bryant. He was pretty tough. And so he called me in his office about the third day, and he said, Louis said, we're going to send you over to Huntsville, Alabama. And I said, okay. He said, we've got a farm team over there, and I think it was the Huntsville Rockets at the time or whatever it was. And so we go over there. Me and Peggy go to Huntsville, and I go out there and I play with them. Well, there's a trainer there that was helping Huntsville Hawks that was helping the Hawks. His name was Glenn Nunley. Well, I found out that he was the head coach at Madison Academy. I got talking to him. So we would practice at night, like at 6:30 or 7 o'clock at night, and play on Saturday nights. And he said, would you mind coming out and helping me with my offensive and defensive lineman? I said, no. And so my little mind, I figured that he had a good coach, and so I was just going to give him some pointers and stuff. So I show up the next day at practice. Well, it's Coach Nunley, about 28 players, and one other guy standing there. And so I said, well, he must be coaching the offensive line or something. And so Coach Nunley was talking to him. He said, I want to introduce you to Louis Thompson. Said he's going to be working with the linemen. And I said, okay. And so he blew the whistle. He said, all you linemen go down there, Coach Thompson. And so we take off, and I'm running down the field with them, and I've got about 15 players, 14, 15 players. And I'm thinking, okay, well, he hadn't told me anything about what we're doing. So we just start lining up doing one-on-one drills just like I did at Alabama. Well, after about 10 minutes, I had all of them laying on the grass, and they were just about to pass out and crying and everything else. I feel this tap on my shoulder. I turn around, it's Coach Nunley. He said, how's it going? I said, Coach, these players. He said, you might ought to ease off just a little bit. So I got indoctrinated real quick about that, but that was my first day actual coaching football. And I spent a lot of days since that day thinking back to that one point. And, as I went on, it developed on. I stayed with him the rest of that season, and we had a pretty good season. It was 8-2, and I think Coach Nunley ended up doing a pretty good job there. But after I left there, I tried to keep up with him, and it was enjoyable.
Coach, take us on a journey from
Madison Academy
to Lincoln County High School.
Okay, well, it's a lot of miles in between there. We after I left Madison Academy, I went back to school and finished my degree, and ended up going to Dadeville, Alabama as an assistant coach. John Niblett was the head coach. Had met him and went down, interviewed, took the job, and that was 1971. And I was assistant coach. At the end of the season, John decided that he was going to take a job in Selma. And so the superintendent talked to me, and I told him I was not ready, I didn't think, at 26 to become a head coach at that time. And he convinced me to. So 1971 or 1972, I became head coach at Dadeville, Alabama. And we had pretty good seasons. We went 8-2, 7-3. Back then, the playoff system was a lot different. They did it by points, and the top 8 teams in the state went to the playoffs. We missed the playoffs in 73, I think, by 2 points. We were number 10, and they only took top 8 teams. So anyway, 1977, a friend of mine calls me from Lebanon, and he said, Lebanon High School is open. He said, would you be interested in coming to talk to him? And I said, I'll come and talk. Well, I went there. I was very happy at Dadeville. Had a lot of friends there. And they convinced me to come back home. Well, you know how it is sometimes when you come back home. It's not always as it seems. So I came back 1 year, really, and I enjoyed the time, but I always thought back about why I left Dadeville and stuff. Well, I met Watson Brown. He had just taken a job at Austin P. And so I talked to him, and he was looking for a defensive linebacker coach. So I talked to him a couple times, and he offered me the job. I decided to take it. So that was my 1 year in Lebanon. Went to Austin P. And I guess I'd always thought about going into college coaching and giving it a try. And we had a couple of good seasons, and I was there 79, 80. And then 81, Watson left and went to Vandy, I think, as offensive coordinator. And so in January, they called us all in and asked us to keep recruiting, everything. And the key was, so we'll pay you for 2 more weeks. And at the time, I had 3 kids. I had a 1-year-old, 5-year-old, and I guess a 10 or 11-year-old. And Peggy wasn't working, and it was getting kind of tight. So I did a couple of odd jobs during that time. Well, I had an interview at Scottsboro, Alabama. I had a friend of mine there for the head football coach. So I went down and talked to him. I was coming back from Scottsboro. I stopped on the north side of Nashville, and I was going to get me a Coke. And I'm in this convenience store, and I look up, and I run into Ronnie Carter. He was standing there, and we get to talking. Ronnie was with the TSSAA, and I told him that I'd been doing some odd jobs, working here and there. I was ready to get back into coaching. I had just had an interview. Well, he gave me a name of a guy in East Tennessee at Unicoi County, and he said that they're looking for a coach. So chance meeting with Ronnie, I called Coach Mr. Masters at Unicoi County and went up for an interview and got the job. And so I went to Unicoi County in 1982 and was there like 1988. I loved the place. It was right up on the North Carolina border. We were about 2 miles from the border, and it was very nice over in Unicoi County, except wintertime. And it was pretty bleak during that time. But I came to the 88 state championship game. Lincoln County had been beaten by Oakland the week before, and they were playing Dixon County, I guess. And I walk into Vandy Stadium, and the first person I run into is John Meadows from Lincoln County. And we get talking, and I'd known Coach Meadows for a long time. And he said, "Are you ready to move back to Middle Tennessee?" And I said, "What's open?" And he said, "Lincoln County is going to be open Monday morning." And I said, "Coach, you're not quitting." He said, "Yes, I am." So I got the number from school, and we went back to East Tennessee. So Monday morning, I come into school, and I'm thinking, and I remembered about talking to Coach Meadows. And so I got that number out, and I just dialed it. And whoever was at the school, the secretary, said, I asked her if Coach Meadows was there, and they said, "No." I said, "He just left the principal's office, and so I'll let you talk to him." And so I did, and he said, "Yeah." I said, "Coach Meadows just resigned." And so I went home, talked to Peggy, and I said, "I might just look into this job at Lincoln County." So I made a call, set up an interview. I came down and had in January. Well, I was coming through Swanee, and it started snowing on me. And it was about 3 or 4 inches of snow on the ground. I got to Lincoln County, and there was one car in the parking lot. And I walk in, and there's Coach Palmer and Mr. Haynes, I guess, standing there. And so that was my interview for that. So I go back home, East Tennessee, and I said, "Well, that's probably it. I'm not going to get that job." Well, Coach Ellis calls me, and I go back for another interview. And that one went a lot better. And so it went on, rocked around. And I think you were on the committee or had something to do with it. There was several people that were on it that I think it was between me and another coach from Lincoln County, and they decided to go with him. He turned it down. Coach Ellis calls me and offers me the job, and I guess it was January, February of '89, and I decided to come back, come back to Middle Tennessee. So it was a good decision at the time.
Not many people remember the principal that hired you at that time was the name of Neil Haynes.
Neil Haynes, Mr. Haynes.
And Neil called me and asked me to sit in on the interview. And I remember there was a break there somewhere, and you went to the chalkboard. And I remember you coming into the interview with chalk all over you. And,
yes, I had. I was meeting with Coach Palmer and Coach Perry, and we were on the chalkboard, and we were talking about. I was going through a lot of stuff, but he asked me if I'd come meet a couple of supporters. Well, I walk in that conference room, and there's about 25 people in there, and I'm kind of lost for words.
The year 1989, did you see anything amongst the team members that you learned from Coach Meadows?
Well, Coach Meadows, me and him were good friends. I came down for 6 weeks in the spring and did spring practice. And about every day I would meet with Coach Meadows. And he pretty well filled me in on just about everybody, the people in town, and I could tell then at that start that this was a great place for high school football, that the people were, had a passion for winners and what had happened at Lincoln County. It was consolidated from 5 different schools in '79. And, Coach Meadows had got them to that point, won the state in '82, had great teams '84, '88, went to the playoffs 6 or 7 years in a row. So I knew it was a good place. I had gone to Dadeville, that was down at the time I went there. Unicoi County was down. They didn't tell me when I went to Unicoi County that they were 1-29 the 4 previous years that I got there. And I found that out after I took the job. And so I thought that this might be a chance to follow a school and see how you could continue on with the success. So I knew I was probably in a better situation than I was in East Tennessee. I got to tell you, I got to finish this story. You're talking about that first year. We started the season. Well, '88, Coach Meadows had some pretty good players, and they graduated. And then '89, we had Kelly Holcomb coming back, Boo Owens, quarterback, and we had a few of those guys that played in '88, but most of them had graduated. So we go through spring, go through summer practice, and Boo Owens is my quarterback, and I'm still trying to run the option offense. That's what I'd been running. And so we go to Franklin County, and we get beat 21-7. We have 500 yards of offense, fumble the ball 15 times, and they beat us 21-7. Well, the crowd just didn't like it, the big rival between Lincoln County and Franklin County. And so the next week we got Shelbyville. We go up there and we play pretty good. We got a chance to kick a field goal to beat them. I don't know, they beat us 22-19 or 22-20, whatever it was, and we missed a field goal at the end. So we're 0-2. This same team had gone to the semifinals the year before. And so there was a lot of grumbling. There was a little grumbling at Franklin County, but there was a lot after the Shelbyville game. And so I'm walking off the field over at Shelbyville, come through the gate, and I do hear this good fan that became a good friend. I heard somebody say, well, I wonder if he's checked that bus schedule for East Tennessee yet. And I said, wow. I said, this is a tough place. Well, Boo Owens had gotten hurt. Alex Owens, quarterback, had gotten hurt. Kelly had to come in. Well, within a week, I tell you how good Kelly Holcomb was. We had been running the option offense stuff. Kelly, we couldn't run the option as good with him. So in a week, we were in the coaches meeting on Sunday. Coach Perrin said, "What are we going to do?" I said, "We're going to go to the eye. We're going to hand it off. We're going to let Kelly throw the ball." And so he said, "You know who we're playing this week?" And I said, "Yeah." And so we get the paper, playing Lebanon, they're ranked number 1. I said, "Well, what's so bad about that? We're 0-2. It doesn't really matter right now who we're playing." So anyway, I get to go back to my hometown, where I graduated from, on the road, up there, all my friends and everything else. We go up and we play one active game, beat them 14-6. And, I think that was a key game at that time that got us jump started towards 90 and 91, 92, 93, right in there. And I think kids learned that they could win, didn't matter who the opponent was. And we ended up going 7-4 that year. And then, of course, coming back next year and with a great bunch of players, with Kelly Oakham leading the crew, won the state in 90.
Coach, you're in the Tennessee TSSAA Hall of Fame. Tell us about the honors that you received during your coaching career.
Well, I mean, I think a lot of it, and it's not things that coaches do. You got, to me, and Coach Bryant, I've learned this from Coach Bryant, you got to surround yourself with good people. And everywhere I went, I had good coaches with me that was, they understood what I wanted, and I would listen to them. I had some great coaches at Dayville. Billy White, Jerry Weems were 2 guys there. And when I went to Lebanon, Ed Shealy and Larry Grissom, had a couple of guys there. Steve Malone. I went to Unicoi County. Had Jack Bragg, had Don Flemings, had Dan Winfrey. And I had Coach Winfrey a couple of places. And when I came here, really had a great staff here. Alvin Palmer, Ron Perrin, Jack Raby, Keith Van Hoosier that first year. And they really bought into the program. And, and then they all left, took other jobs or went to administration and had to get some other guys. Don Thomas, who played here, was a great defensive coordinator. Coach Winfrey, he was at Lawrenceburg and had been at Smyrna. I got him to come back for 4 years. Great offensive mind, did a great job for us. Don McNeese probably spent more time with me than any other coach in 36 years. He came in 91, I guess, and did a great job. Matter of fact, Coach Mack is still at Lincoln County High School. He's been there 30 years, I guess, now. But it's a great coach. Had some players that came back to help. Danny Lowe played on the 93 state championship team, was coaching at Sequatchie County. Saw him at a coaching clinic. I needed a defensive line coach. And I talked to him. I said, "Danny Lowe, you're hired right now." And he said, "Really?" I said, "Yep." And so he came back and really did a super job. And had other coaches, that really worked. Aaron Taylor was a guy that was here for 7-8 years with me. That was good. Travis Tate was another ex-player that really did a good job. Travis is a baseball coach now. So during the time, all those awards, they have to give it to somebody, I guess. But there was a lot of people that were involved in it. Coaches, players. You got to have some pretty good players. And I probably don't have time to mention all those players. I mentioned Kelly, but I had some others off that 90 team, Rod Buchanan, Burt Talley, Chad Harrison. There was just many of them, Alfonso Henderson. There was just some great players that played. 93 team. You have Chevy Parker. You got Kevin Henderson. Danny Lowe was on that team. So all that goes into that. And, as far as the awards, I'm happy to have received them, but it really goes to the players and the other coaches that's helped you get there.
6 of your players at Lincoln County became Mr. Football runners. And your teams earned national rankings during those years that you were there. What was your approach to mentoring young athletes, both on and off the field?
Well, I only had a couple of rules. I I would give a rule sheet, and it was usually a sheet of paper, and it said, "Be at practice when I tell you to." And the second rule was no drugs. Everything else, I can handle. And it was pretty simple. I think a lot of coaches put too much on young people. They have 25 rules that they've got to do, and sometimes it's hard for them to adhere to all of them. So I did ask them to be there. I had players to miss practice if I knew where they were, but it was a thing that they had to show up and do the right things. I learned that from Coach Bryant. The life skills I talked about earlier, our coaches, and I used to talk to them about it. Always do things with class. Treat people the way you want to be treated. Never mistreat a player, and I'm sure I have. During that time, I probably mistreated some. I tried to never let a player leave practice if I had gotten on him for something without a positive word to him. And I tried to do that my whole career. And when they got through playing, I didn't say, well, he's done, I'm done with him. I would try to help them do whatever. If they wanted to go on to school, recommendations, I told them I'd do anything for them in the future except give them money. I said I didn't have any money, didn't make any money coaching, so don't ask me for money. You can ask me for anything else, be glad to. And I've had a lot of good contacts over the years from those guys. And, it's just, it's a fraternity that it's hard to explain how it is after you played the game. You've played the game, you know how it goes. And we have reunions, going to one in November, 66 team. It'll be 60 years, or 65 team, national championship team. There's not very many of us left now, but when you go back, I get teary-eyed sometimes because we'll start talking about things that happen, about games, and about Coach Bryant, of course. And, it's just a wonderful experience that I got to experience then and still get to do it now.
One last question, Coach. 50 years down the road, when people look back and discuss Louis Thompson, what would you like for your legacy to be?
Well, I'd like to think that I tried to treat everybody the way they wanted to be treated. I know that I failed on that sometimes in the past, not intentionally, but that I was a fair person. I tried to look at everybody the same, and just hope they can remember my name.
Okay.
Coach Louis Thompson, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Appreciate you telling your story.
Okay.